what's your self-talk, Bish? What do you say in your head? What do you hear?
Oh my God, this is so much harder than going up a hill on a bike. And that's like one of the easiest things I've ever done, is riding a bike up a hill. This is literally the hardest thing I've ever, no, it's great. This is super fun. We get to hang out in awesome places, feed happy bike racers, and get to see them do cool things. What could be better? And I get to hang out with this crew. Look at these people right here, huh? That's what I get to do. It's great. Cheers.
All right, everyone, welcome back to Miles and Mindset, Tour de France Femmes edition with me and Brent Bookwalter, both former professional endurance athletes with 50 years of combined experience. Yes, we are not spring chickens, but together we are here to share insights on the athlete performance mindset. Brent with a master's in sports psychology, and me with just a ton of experience and a love for the psychology and the endurance mindset. And this little episode, Miles and Mindset, it's our collaboration on mental performance training for athletes. And this series is through the lens of the most amazing, biggest cycling event in the world, Tour de France Femmes, avec, Zwift. And these episodes looked into the mindsets of the athletes and also what's going on inside the teams. And we have really cool special access to one team in particular, Saint Michel Preference Home, Auberville 93, because Brent and I are part of the performance team assembled by Dr. Alan Lim to work with a young pro on that team, Caroline Resin. And they've got crew over there, Alan, Bijou, students from CU Boulder, and other support staff who are there to elevate and maximize athlete performance. So we're getting daily insights from the team, what's going on, how they're feeling, how it's going. And so we're combining that with watching the race coverage, with Brent's experience from racing the Tour de France himself and mine from other ultra endurance events. And each day we bring you a little bit of the mindset breakdown of what the athletes are going through. And this is stage 3. We've done already stage 1 and 2. If you've missed those, go back to our YouTubes and you can dive in, and we give you direct insight of what's going on. So stage 2, we covered self-talk, how to be your best coach instead of your worst enemy. So that was a really fun one yesterday. And today, stage 3. Brent, what were you expecting when you looked at the profile of this stage?
Yeah, Rebecca, stage 3, right from the start, the first time I looked at this, screamed breakaway to me. You start any race with a Cat 1 climb. This climb, I think, was around 12 kilometers, over 6%. And all the breakaway riders are just licking their chops because sprinters are going to have a hard time making it over that climb that big. And it's so far out for the GC riders to really start throwing blows at each other and distancing themselves. So it would take so much commitment to go from the top all the way to the finish. So when it kind of is in that in-between, that is really the big blinky red lights for breakaway. And that is what happened. Maybe a little more of an untraditional breakaway than we'd expect to see with the solo rider. Just phenomenal performance from Sigrid Haugset, which we'll get into a little later. Just seeing one rider go to the line, but I know there were a lot of riders, and even speaking to Caroline and the team there before the race started, this was a race that they also identified as breakaway potential. And I can only imagine that the start area, the neutral today, was very intense, very nervous, and like lots of emotionally charged energy rolling through there because of the importance of those first 15, 20 kilometers, which were really influential. But unfortunately, we didn't get to see them.
I know. So, okay, we're going to touch on this for a second. They're not doing full race coverage from start to finish yet for the Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift. It's year number 5 of this race, making up some lost time. It's year number 113 of the men's, 113 of the men's version. And so we're making such great strides in what's happening for pro women's cycling. But yeah, it is kind of a horror that really a lot of the action that went down in today's stage we weren't able to see it on the coverage. And so that's why it's important that you guys are all tuning in. You're watching the Femmes, you're liking, you're getting on these athletes' Instagrams and social media, giving them high fives, because this really is such a huge opportunity, not just for cycling, but for sports in general, women's sports in general. And so thanks for being here with us as well. I do want to say, you touched on, you went through with Caroline, looking at every stage, and each athlete's doing this. They're looking at every stage, each team's doing it. They're targeting where their strengths might be, what might be a stage that they can run away with. And many of these teams do not have a GC contender. And so a lot of these teams are really looking for their breakout riders to target a stage like this where they might be able to make a breakaway and really, one, get visibility for their team, for their sponsors, and really kind of put their names, stamp their names in history. And so I can see how probably a lot of teams we're sitting there at the start being like, this could be my day, this could be my day, this could be my team's day, which is pretty exciting. And you guys had targeted this, Caroline's team had targeted this stage as well. So nobody's alone in seeing that big, huge first climb, and thinking, oh, is it going to be my day? Am I going to run away with it?
That makes it so hard fought too. I think just giving it credit, when it is a climb that big, it does actually take some of the tactic out of it. And there's only so much that motivation and ambition do. It actually is about a physical level to climb at a world-class level and make it over that climb. And that was also a huge part of today. And there are some other stages coming up that are a little more dynamic and undulating and open up the tactics a little bit for different types of riders. But it was a high fee and level just to enter and play the breakaway game today, as evidence from the riders we saw up there in the day's eventual winner.
You want to talk about the breakaway first, or do you want to talk about stage 3 and like where people are at this point in a 9-day stage race? What do you want to start with?
Yeah, I think before we go on and get to the exploits of Sigrid Haugset and that legendary ride that she did for Norway, I think just taking a second to pause and reflect. We say it's only stage 3, but these riders have already traveled a lot. They've traveled a major path. And every day, I always said as a rider, every day of Tour de France bike racing was worth 2, 3, or 5, or 10 of bike racing anywhere else, just because of the intensity, the depth, the level of the peloton. Everything was at stake. And another aspect of the Tour de France many fans don't understand is that it also starts just so much further out in terms of the travel, the arrival, all these teams doing pre-tour training camps, or most of these teams and riders doing pre-tour training camps. So, that is to prime them for the full 9 days, but the fatigue does accumulate much faster than a lot of other races. And these first 2 races, won by one of the world's best sprinters. These were not just traditional flat rolling cruises through the countrysides with a windup for a bunch sprint. There was already lots of time gaps, lots of selection. We heard lots of reports from the Saint Michel team of Caroline and Dr. Alan Lim of how just the intensity of a simple task like going back to get bottles in these extremely hot conditions, that amplified at the Tour makes it a whole other can of worms. So I think that all these little sort of like death by 1,000 cuts, little incidences that are just amplified and exaggerated at the Tour really are already felt at day 3. And I'm sure there were a lot of tired bodies, probably some irritability, and probably some doubt even creeping in of like, oh, we're about to start 3 days. We have so much more to go. Fortunately, they have a time trial tomorrow. Some of them will get a little bit lower training stress day in. But the fatigue and the already setting in and testing that riders, the durability and endurance and their depth to recover, not just physically, but mentally too.
Yeah, I know when we talked to Caroline, and I mean, stage racing is a whole different beast anyway, of performing day after day after day, where you're slowly eroding, basically your recovery. You just can't recover enough in between the days. And you made a point that it's like, this is only, air quotes, only stage 3 of 9, but yet they've had so much already. And, I was listening to some of the stuff, even like their bus, I think on stage 2, their team bus is like 3 kilometers away from where the finish line is. And so even to like get back to your
Bonus
recovery
miles.
drink and get back to, yeah, you've like got to ride back there. You've got to work your way through all the traffic. You've got to like, there's so many other factors that it seems like are thrown into an event of this scale and size that add a level of stress, that, like you said, death by 1,000 cuts, it just takes away a little bit more energy, a little bit more energy. And I know from the team, some of their support staff's getting really fatigued too, of like they forgot the musettes and they had to go back and, stuff like that becomes such a big ordeal. You can't just run back to the hotel or run back to the bus if it's kilometers away. So I'm definitely feeling for them. And they have a really audacious goal of they've got students from CU Boulder that are there with the team, doing blood tests, doing weigh-ins, checking their salt. They're kind of going the extra mile to actually case study these athletes. And even the science team is getting really tired and fatigued and trying not to infringe too much on the riders. So I can imagine there's probably some emotional sort of tension. Did
Absolutely.
you ever feel that like in your
Oh,
teams of
yes.
like,
Oh my gosh. I mean, it actually is really it's such a tricky balance. Like it's on one hand, what a amazing resource and opportunity to have all these data points taking and this, everything is data approach of Dr. Alan Lim and really being able to understand the body. It's a performance resource in the moment, but what the collective of us all endurance athletes stand to learn from this ongoing also study that's taking place is really exciting. And for everyone listening too, like, yeah, stay tuned because there'll be some great, I'm sure, science and applicable knowledge to come out of this. But selfishly, as a competitor, you just want to be left alone. It's like, don't poke me, don't
right,
ask me for my urine, don't poke my finger, don't make me stand on a scale.
right.
Like, just leave me alone. I want to go curl up in a ball after I've, done my recovery drink, done my ice bath, gotten a massage, transferred, sat on the bus, gotten sloshed around through some more technical European roads. Just leave me alone. But they're committed to the goal of giving everything they can to this race and seizing this opportunity and supplying this data and these metrics. And there is definitely a performance benefit to be had, but it's a razor line in terms of that taking away. And it takes a lot of flexibility and constant reframing and really being deliberate and being compartmentalized with when you don't have people touching you, probing you, prodding you, and interacting with you to really silo off and really go into regulation of self and monk out and just take every bit of cognitive deactivation that you can get. So they earn very few quiet minutes they get. Oh, they earn them.
It's a bold undertaking and I really respect their team for doing that. But yeah, I can tell how, you might just be like, gosh, I just want to go to sleep. That said, I mean, I will say Caroline's tired. I'm sure their whole team is tired, but he is seeing some of her best power numbers coming out, and they're getting some great data. And they still have all 7 riders in there, which not every team can speak for that. I know one team in particular has already lost 3 riders, and so
Yes.
sort of the riding, the fatigue is starting to show in teams. And I'm really proud of all of them that they're in there, they're racing. Everybody seems healthy, so
Yes,
they're doing it.
and in the fight too. I think like awesome to know. Like Emily Morier from France, they're one of their French riders is right on that top 20 bubble, and like with the peloton, with the GC mix, like if she does a good time trial tomorrow, she's like up into the conversation of top 10. So for a team
Yeah.
like this, that is definitely a reason to fight and to motivate and to rally, and really exciting. So I think that it's important to note that yeah, they are competitive despite the level being so high, and we'll be watching that TT tomorrow closely.
Yeah, and Emily actually got a call out on the coverage today of just being like, hey, I really want to call out this rider who's having a great ride and having a great tour so far. So that was
Yes,
super exciting to like hear our team mention and like cheer for them.
yes, I love it.
All right.
Bias.
Should we get into the actual stage and Sigrid's, historic ride today?
My goodness. Yes. Yeah. I mean, you could, this is one of those performances. There's not enough beautiful descriptors to describe and give kudos and props and commend this performance. I think this was one of these rare days where you see a rider just, come into their own, defy the odds and really make history, not just for themselves, but also for their country and the women's Tour de France too. Like I think you provided the stat, and we maybe haven't stat checked it with all the statisticians, but possibly the longest solo breakaway in Tour de France Femmes recent 5 years. So what a day for the history books.
Yeah, I mean, at least from the coverage that I heard today, one, that she's a very young rider. She's 27. This is her second win ever. Her first win was Norwegian Championship. She's a very new pro. Her second win ever is at the Tour de France, taking the yellow jersey. And what the announcers did say, I haven't fact checked it, but the announcers said it's the first stage win in the Tour de France Femmes for Norway, the first yellow jersey for Norway, and the longest solo breakaway in the history of the Tour de France Femmes at 88 kilometers by herself. So I want to talk about what the mindset, I mean, she had a lot of time to have that self-talk, as we talked about in episode 2. What do you think she's talking about for 88 kilometers by herself at the Tour de France Femmes?
Well, look, yeah, I think any time you see an athlete do a performance like this, we talk about there's absolutely mental aspects, but it also starts with the physical part too, just to get her playing the game, like we said over that first big climb, the physical level that she has and has worked so hard to get, putting her in the mix from the start. All the mental tricks only go so far, and they're not possible to really exploit if you don't have that physical level. So first and foremost, she had that. But from there, what a drag race that her and Lotte Kopecky had. And Lotte Kopecky, two-time world champion, one of this generation's of women's cyclists, just hitters and classics riders that we've seen her just pull out these immense feats that I think for a lot of this day, a lot of us who didn't know any better, didn't know any more, just assumed that, Lotte Kopecky's gonna hunt this young Norwegian down and have her day. And I think that was playing into the mind of Sigrid Haugset, and she mentioned that a little bit in her finish line interview. But what I loved from that is she sort of referenced and framed her outing today. One, it was circled, it had a bullseye on it for a breakaway. 2, she told her dad it was his birthday. She said, "I'm going to get you some flowers." But she was thinking like most aggressive, combative flowers, right? Like you get to go on the podium if you're the most aggressive rider. So she's already tuned, kind of just letting go of this outcome and just about like getting in the break, showing herself, pushing on, being really aggressive. And it wasn't until much later in the race where she's also all of a sudden starts to realize like, wow, now I'm really in it. And she also referenced the chase with Lotte Kopecky and saying, I thought, you know what, for when she was chasing me down, I was kind of expecting to get caught. I thought second's pretty good if I can stay with her to the line, like second's pretty good. So again, just letting go of this outcome and really this full immersion on process. And I think with that, going back to the self-talk, it's this very elemental instructional of like, what am I doing now in the moment, the pedaling, the eating, her aerodynamic position. Wow, she folded up like a beautiful bird just in full flight and super aerodynamic on her bike. And all those technical elements coming together likely in her self-talk. Unfortunately, we can't get in her brain and know what was going on up there, but very empowering performance.
I loved all that stuff in her post-race interview too. She was just like, I was so dizzy at the end, I couldn't raise my arms off the handlebars because like I wasn't sure I could sure I could do it. And so like, I mean, where do you think it turned where, Lotte Kopecky got within 10 seconds of her at around 15K to go. And you also saw in Sigrid's body language that she was really like not in perfect form, and you could tell she was really kind of struggling on the pedals for a little bit, and then a flip kind of switched, and then it was 11 seconds and it was 12 seconds, and then her form got a little better, and then eventually by the end it was a minute.
Yes.
that she
Open
pulled
back up.
back and opened her lead up to a minute, and it was 10 seconds. So what would you imagine is happening that last 15K where she was kind of slumping, going, oh, well, second's pretty good, and then
Yeah.
didn't end up sort of taking second, you know?
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
kind
I
of shift
think
is happening?
Yeah, I think this is a beautiful scenario and a really like almost textbook scenario to pull some theories from this self-efficacy theory. And this is a theory from Albert Bandura, bit of a I don't know if you'd call it old school performance psychology theory, but one that's been yeah, stood the test of time and been around a while. And when we speak of self-efficacy, you can kind of lump it with confidence, but self-efficacy is not as broad as confidence. It's real task and situational specific belief that there is a capability to deliver, meet a challenge and meet an opportunity. And that there's so much challenge and opportunity in this dynamic of of a solo breakaway that can go to the line. And when you pick apart this Bandura self-efficacy theory, the four sources of self-efficacy that Bandura identified to either build or destroy this belief, this task and situational specific belief. I think we can see all these in play as we saw Sigrid Haugset go to the line, and these are inactive mastery, which this is some specificity in a past or successful hard effort similar to this. So we know, checking her pro cycling stats, that Sigrid Haugset won the Norwegian national championship, flying that beautiful jersey today. She didn't just win it, but she won it in a solo breakaway. So absolutely, there is this element of self-belief that comes from this already enacted mastery in this very task and situational specific environment of it's like she did the same thing and different, not the Tour de France, not the same distance, but that dynamic of being out there alone, solo breakaway to the line, and that relevance and that mastery experience of that situation and task, really, really powerful. Um, so
So
that's
it's as
one.
simple as saying, I've been here before. I know how to do this. I've done it before. And yeah,
And
it's
again,
sort of,
credible
she can
and very
tell herself.
credible because it
Yeah.
was just in June that she did that. So that was
Okay.
absolutely in her mind. Again, I won't assume or declare I know it was in her mind, but for a rider that's riding a solo breakaway, trying to win a stage, having just had that experience, there's a lot of self belief that comes from that, and it's backed by this psychological theory and science. Um, so
Right.
yeah, nice, really nice fit. And then the next one is this vicarious modeling. So like this is kind of like if they can do it, I can do it. And the beautiful connection here, I think, is with her team, Uno X Mobility, Norwegian team in the Tour de France, the men's race, and the Tour de France Femmes. So as a Norwegian, she is basically, setting records, making history for her country, just as the men did in their race. We talked during the men's race about Torsten Trein, her compatriot, who also was in the yellow jersey, a bit of a surprise. Also, another Norwegian, Soren Warensgold, a sprinter in the men's race, winning a sprint stage for Norway. And Norway, like, speak of a revelation of recent times in cycling. Like, I'm trying to think back to the beginning of my career. Norway was not a cycling powerhouse, but they are today. And there is absolutely this element of like, even across the men's and women's team, like if they can do it, if this organization can do it, then I can do it too. It's like that ability to be able to see someone and say, yes, I can do it. And I felt that myself as an American, seeing American peers that were competitive, winning races, making selections at the front of the world's best races. There's a lot of self-belief that can be built from that connection to them. And I got to think that had a hand in her performance today as well.
Yeah, that's such a good point. I didn't know that that's called vicarious modeling, but I definitely have felt that way. Even like, oh, if a woman rides a technical section or somebody I know, then I'm like, oh, okay, it can be done. I can see
Hmm.
how it can be done. Even if it wasn't me that did it, it's people that I
Yes.
identify with or that, yeah, I didn't know the name for that. Vicarious modeling. I like it. If you can see it, you can be it is basically the
Yes.
simple way of putting it
Yeah.
into
And
like
when there's some relatability too.
non-psychology language. What's that?
Yes. If there's just so much relatability, I think, even if it comes to, for you, like you've raced all over the world and you've competed all over the world, right? And you didn't have that. You didn't have the luxury of this. You were often first American woman to do this, or even first woman in general. So that's a challenge to have self-efficacy in that, and that you don't have access to the, like, they've paved the way. I've seen them do it. They can do it. So therefore I
Right.
know I can. Which doesn't mean it's not possible, but these,
Yeah.
these building blocks of self-efficacy really can add up.
Is that what you would, the famous Bannister, the 4-minute mile, basically? Is that what happened there
Yes,
when like all
absolutely.
people were trying to do it? One guy does it, Roger Bannister, and then all of a sudden everybody else achieves it quickly within a couple weeks afterwards, even though people have been
Yes.
trying for years. Is that an
Yes.
example of
Yes, this
this?
is this is
Okay.
similar, and yeah, and this relatability as peers, like as pro runners who are running against each other, you see someone go to that level and it's like, "Oh, here I am, like running next to him all these time. Like I guess we're all doing this now." And the level keeps getting lifted, and
Yeah.
that, I think you see that across sport, not just cycling these days, and one of the other reasons that the level keeps rising and building on itself.
Right. So what's the other? There's 4 parts to this
Yeah,
self-efficacy.
and then so another part is this, the role of verbal persuasion and feedback. And
Okay.
Sigrid, she mentioned that in her finish line interview as well. The role of the director in the car, up there behind her on the road, also in her ear, and that this this boldness and belief and communication and feedback and encouragement of willing her on and pushing her, and also knowing that type of feedback, like we said, just like our self-talk needs to be specific for us, this director rider feedback is more powerful when there is alignment, and connection from coach or director to rider. So yeah, again, I don't know their specific relationship, but I imagine it is not, they didn't meet yesterday. And that's even more
Yeah.
powerful, this verbal persuasion to really cultivate that belief in self in the hardest moments when Lotte Kopecky is chasing you down, and it's, yeah, the time gap's just shrinking. That bit of push and guidance and affirmation from the car behind, very important to keep you believing and dreaming in yourself as well.
It's such a unique aspect to professional road cycling that you actually have your coach or your director's voice in your own ear instead of just
Yeah.
your own voice. And I mean, I've never had anything like that. And to know that, like, okay, it's 10 seconds, now it's 11 seconds, now it's 12 seconds, to be hearing that in real time, because, in my racing, like, you just don't know. You're looking over your shoulder, you're not getting
Yeah, guessing.
in the moment splits. And so getting that, even feeling that momentum, hearing that momentum shift, even by 1 second, maybe was giving her that extra bit of like superhuman power to be like, okay, it's working. It's working.
Yes.
It's pretty cool that you could, maybe, I don't know, did you like having a voice in your ear while you were racing, or not like having a voice in your ear? Or
Yeah,
did
to
it
be honest,
depend?
for me, it really depended on the voice and the person behind it,
Yeah.
and really situational specific too. And I think there's so much individuality there. I think, there's there's definitely a clear role for some feedback. I mean, even the absence of feedback is feedback. So what I didn't like
Yeah.
is when you were doing really well, hearing a lot from a director, and then when it started to not go as well, I'd stop hearing from them. And then I'd kind of feel like
Yeah.
left out, like in the cold, like, what the heck? All of a sudden, I'm not worthy of your excitement and enthusiasm. Actually, now is when I need it most. So, like, pull it out here. Yeah. But yeah, that's a whole
That's
other
funny.
episode. Brent's history of
Yeah.
directors.
Well, whatever her director was saying in her
It was
ear was
working.
obviously, and she did mention like that was helping her in her post-race interview. She said, that was definitely motivating and lit a
Yep.
fire for her. All
Yes.
right,
Yes.
what's the fourth layer to this?
Yeah, the fourth layer of this is your management and interpretation of your physiological state. And in these moments, your physiological state is gonna be deteriorating, right? There's pain, there's discomfort, there's accumulation of fatigue, and you can view this and interpret this as you coming apart, or you can also view this, interpret this in an empowered way of that you're doing it right. It's like the fact that I can still fold myself over in this aerodynamic position and my legs are pumping and this burn that I'm feeling. If we can view that and interpret that as like, yes, I'm on the path. Like we are doing this collective of like, we're going, yes, this is happening. And also in reference to competitors, this dynamic of knowing that, not thinking that we're the only ones feeling this, but if I'm pushing this hard and she is closing this gap, holy cow, she's got to be on fumes because I'm still moving here really well. And if I'm pushing this hard, if I feel like this, if I'm as aerodynamic as this, it's only a matter of time before she blows up as she's trying to chase me. And just sort of that referencing and managing that feedback from self, and interpreting those feelings.
So tell us again this theory and the person's name and how somebody might take this into their rides, into their everyday non-Femme world.
Sure. Yeah. So this is Albert Bandura, self-efficacy theory. And this is absolutely something that that all of us can use. So when we say an active mastery, it doesn't have to be so specific as, even in this case of Sigrid, she hadn't won a Tour de France stage in a solo breakaway before, but she won her national championships in a solo breakaway. And if you don't have that data point of mastery, then it's like, what other evidence, what other knowledge do you have? What other mastery do you have of elements that are part of building to this performance? So maybe it's those time trial intervals you did. Maybe it's the 20-minute test your coach made you do on a flat road and you wanted to do it on a climb. That's mastery of the skills that are going to support you with this challenge that builds self-belief. So sometimes that means we're going to have to go further and further and deeper and keep peeling back layers. But usually there's something there, even if it's down to our base level character skills and qualities that we bring. And then the vicarious modeling, I think that's something where we sort of check and realize the importance of the relatability, and that we're not doing any pursuit we're not doing it in a vacuum, right? We're not isolated out there as a one of one, not connected to anyone. So actually giving more value to this relatability, finding it, building it, connecting with it, and drawing those lines so that we can kind of say like, yeah, they can do it, I can do it. Like, yeah, let's go and build something from that.
I love this. I think it's awesome. I mean, probably that wouldn't be some of the self-talk I would be using in the middle of a stage like this, of like going through the theory, but it's really good to hear it and understand. And as you're saying it, I'm like, I didn't know the theory till we started talking about this, but I'm like, oh yeah, I've done that. Oh yeah, I've done that, and used my own language for it. So a lot of times I think we know all this psychology stuff and mindset stuff, even if you didn't have language for it. You can go back to your history of like, what did I do last time? Or what worked before? Or, oh man, I like when my mom cheers for me, and I can hear my mom at the sideline. So I think we all have these simple examples. It doesn't need to seem so esoteric like you learned it in a book, because we really are practicing it in real life. But thank you for putting that context to it. I love that.
Absolutely. Yes. And that, again, with all of this, the individual application is always the best. And that's where the rubber really hits the road. So for me, it's helpful. I feel the same way about my racing career, in that I was doing a lot of this. I was seeing it in peers, but with some understanding, I can also get a little bit of perspective on what could have been improved on a time when maybe I wasn't my best, or when I left a little bit on the shelf or on the table. Yeah. It's like, oh, if I pick this apart, actually, like I was really good in kind of these three aspects of it, but I had no element of verbal persuasion in order to continuously build this situational and task specific belief in myself. So like, that's something that is in my control. Like I can go and like solicit that, ask for that, plan for that, design my team to get some of that. And ultimately that's what this is about, is us taking ownership for our performance, putting the pieces together and getting what we need to be better.
Yeah, it's such a good point. It's the whole goal of this Miles and Mindset is actually helping you build your mindset toolbox and actually learn how to train and be able to draw on some of those skills and tools when you are out there on the roads and trails yourself. So, is there anything else you want to cover on today's episode, Brent?
No, I'll be able to rest up for tomorrow. We have big TT day tomorrow, so
Yeah,
the routine starts early
yeah,
tomorrow.
okay. Yeah, time trial tomorrow, or no, individual time trial, right?
Yes, ITT.
Yeah, yeah. Oof, individual time trial. That would not be my favorite stage, I know for sure. For those of you tuning in, thanks for being here. This is stage 3. We'll be doing 9 of them. And I also just want to encourage you. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching the Tour de France Femmes, avec, Zwift. Thank you for elevating women in sport. And I was out on my ride today. I got up really early, got out on my ride, did a hill climb up to this 8,000 foot summit right near my house. And I was just like, this is why sports are important. This is why we need to see this on TV, because like it inspired me to get out there early this morning, to hurry back
Beautiful.
so I could watch the coverage. So I hope you're feeling the same kind of motivation, and we will see you on tomorrow's episode of Miles and Mindset. Thank you, Brent.
Thanks, Rebecca.